Friends, please check if you're already subscribed to the channel. Your subscription is very important to us. We need to reach 1,000 subscribers to generate income and continue with the channel. Now, let's get to the video. I kept scanning the crowd like my eyes were malfunctioning, like maybe they just hadn't focused yet. Rows of folding chairs filled the gymnasium, parents waving phones in the air, flashes going off, proud smiles everywhere. Names echoed through the speakers, one by one, each followed by applause that bounced off the walls and landed somewhere heavy in my chest. I sat there in my black gown, cap slightly crooked, tassel brushing my cheek every time I turned my head. My parents' seats were empty. Not running late, empty. Not parking trouble, empty. Empty, empty. The kind of empty that starts whispering things to you if you stare at it too long. Maybe they're stuck in traffic. Maybe they're grabbing water. Maybe they're outside and they'll walk in right before your name. I checked my phone for the 5th time in 2 minutes. No missed calls. No texts. Just the lock screen photo of me at 16, standing between them, smiling like we were solid. Like we were something dependable. My name was coming up soon. I could feel it. That quiet buzz of anticipation ran through the graduates around me. Some were already crying, some were squeezing hands, some were turning around, locking eyes with the people who showed up for them. I swallowed. 4 years. 2 jobs. Late nights. Loans. Stress that aged me faster than time ever could. This moment was supposed to be witnessed. I remembered the last phone call with my mother. "Don't worry, baby," she said, voice light, distracted. "We'll be there." That was it. No enthusiasm. No questions. No pride dripping from her words. Still, I believed her. I always did. The announcer's voice rang out again. And next, graduating with honors. I stopped breathing. That was me. I stood up on shaky legs, my heart pounding so loud I was sure everyone could hear it. As I walked toward the stage, I looked one last time toward those seats. Still empty. No last-minute rush. No familiar wave. No proud smile. Just absence. Applause filled the room when my name was called, but it felt like it was happening underwater. I shook hands, accepted the diploma, smiled because that's what you're trained to do. Cameras flashed, capturing a version of me that looked accomplished, whole, supported. But inside, something cracked. I walked back to my seat and sat down slowly, my hands trembling beneath the gown. I didn't cry. Not yet. I felt hollow. Like someone had scooped something important out of me and left the shell to clap politely for everyone else. The ceremony ended. People flooded the gym floor, hugging, laughing, posing for photos. I stood off to the side, pretending to scroll through my phone, pretending I wasn't waiting for someone who never came. Then my phone vibrated. A call. From my father. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering. They missed it. All of it. And now they were calling. I answered. "Hey," he said, casual. Too casual. "You done?" That was the moment I knew. Whatever this call was about. It wasn't an apology. And it definitely wasn't about me. "Yeah," I said, my voice flat. "I'm done." "Good," my father replied, like I'd just confirmed a grocery pickup. "Listen, we're a little tied up right now, so we can't talk long." Tied up. I watched a girl a few feet away collapse into her mother's arms, sobbing into her shoulder. Her dad wrapped both of them in a hug, his face red and proud. Someone nearby popped a bottle of cheap champagne. Laughter spilled through the air like music. Tied up with what? I asked. There was noise on his end. Loud music. Someone shouting. Glass clinking. A party. My stomach dropped so fast it felt violent. "Oh, you know," he said. "Your cousin Tanya decided to throw something last minute. Family thing. We figured you'd understand." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My brain was busy replaying every reminder I'd sent. Every calendar invite. Every text that said this matters to me without using those exact words. "You're young," he continued. "You'll have plenty of graduations." Something snapped quietly inside me. "This was my only college graduation," I said. He sighed. Actually sighed. Like I was being difficult. "Anyway," he said, lowering his voice slightly. "We wanted to ask you something." "Of course." My mother's voice cut in, sweet and sudden. "Baby. Congratulations. We're so proud of you." I closed my eyes. She hadn't said that when I walked across the stage. She said it now. Because now they needed something. "Thank you," I whispered. "So listen," she continued, skipping right past the obvious. "Your dad mentioned you got that refund check from your financial aid." My grip tightened around the phone. "I did," I said carefully. "Well," she said, dragging the word out, "we're a little short this month. Just temporarily. The party ended up costing more than we thought, and..." The words blurred together after that. Party. Short. Temporary. Family helps family. They didn't see me graduate. But they saw my bank account just fine. "I need you to send us some money," my father cut in again. "Just until next month." I looked down at my diploma case resting against my leg. My name embossed in gold. Proof that I had survived something hard without them. "You skipped my graduation," I said slowly. There was a pause. Not the guilty kind. The annoyed kind. "Don't start," my mother warned. "This isn't about that." I almost laughed. "Isn't it?" I asked. People passed me, smiling, celebrating, holding flowers and balloons. Someone bumped my shoulder and apologized. I nodded automatically. My parents were asking me to pay for the party they chose over me. "I had student loans," I said. "I worked 2 jobs. I barely slept for 4 years." "And whose fault is that?" my father said sharply. "We raised you. You're where you are because of us." There it was. The invisible invoice. "You owe us," he continued. "That's how this works." I felt heat rise up my neck, my ears burning. All the times I'd covered groceries. Paid their phone bill. Sent money, just this once. All the times I swallowed disappointment to keep the peace. "I'm standing alone in a gym right now," I said, my voice shaking. "Everyone else is with their parents." Silence. Then my mother laughed. "Oh, don't be dramatic," she said. "It's just a ceremony. Just a ceremony." I hung up. Right there. No goodbye. No explanation. The noise of the gym rushed back in, louder than before. My hands were shaking, my chest tight. For a second, guilt tried to creep in, years of conditioning rising up like muscle memory. But something else rose with it. Clarity. They didn't miss my graduation by accident. They chose. And for the first time in my life, I started to wonder what would happen if I stopped choosing them back. Speech balloon. If this moment hit you, take a second to like the video. It tells me you're feeling this too. I stood there long after the call ended, the phone still warm in my hand, like it might ring again if I let go. My parents had a way of doing that, of leaving conversations unfinished on purpose, so the silence would do their work for them. Guilt was their favorite language. I finally stepped outside the gym. The air was cooler, heavy with the smell of fresh-cut grass and car exhaust. Families crowded the sidewalk, posing for pictures beneath banners that said "Congratulations, Class of." Laughter followed me as I walked, alone, toward the parking lot. I told myself I was fine. I wasn't. I sat in my car without starting it, staring at the steering wheel while memories began lining up in my head, one after another, like witnesses waiting to testify. The first time I gave them money, I was 18. I just started my first semester, working evenings at a grocery store. My mother called me crying, said the electricity was about to be shut off. I sent what little I had. Ate ramen for 2 weeks. Told myself this was what being a good daughter looked like. Then it happened again. And again. Every emergency arrived right after something good happened to me. A scholarship. A raise. A tax return. They always knew. They always called. And I always sent it. Because that's what I was raised to do. Don't forget where you came from. Family comes first. We sacrificed everything for you. Those phrases lived in my bones. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Why would you hang up like that? We were just talking." Just talking. I didn't respond. Another text came in, this one from my father. "You embarrassed us. Everyone heard the music. Now people think we're bad parents." I let out a dry, broken laugh. They were worried about how they looked. Not about how I felt. I thought about all the times I showed up for them. Birthdays I planned. Bills I paid. Arguments I swallowed. I was always the responsible one, the strong one. Strength, I realized, had become their excuse. My phone buzzed again. "Send the money tonight," my mother wrote. "We'll talk about the graduation later." Later. Later never came. I finally started the car and drove away, the gym shrinking in my rearview mirror. Every mile put distance between me and the version of myself who believed love meant endurance. At a red light, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Cap still on. Mascara slightly smudged. Eyes tired, but sharp. For the first time, I asked myself a dangerous question. What if I said no? The thought made my chest tighten. Fear and relief tangled together in a way I'd never felt before. Saying no meant consequences. Anger. Cold shoulders. Stories told about me when I wasn't in the room. But saying yes meant something else. It meant this would never end. The light turned green. I drove straight to my apartment, climbed the stairs, and locked the door behind me like I was sealing myself inside a decision. I placed my diploma on the table, ran my fingers over my name again. This wasn't just a piece of paper. It was proof I could survive without their approval. My phone buzzed one more time. "We're waiting," my father wrote. I stared at the screen. And for the first time in my life, I didn't answer. Thought balloon. If you've ever been made to feel guilty for choosing yourself, tap like. You're not alone. The night stretched on without them. No angry voicemail. No dramatic apology. Just silence. It shouldn't have felt so loud, but it did. The quiet pressed against my walls, my thoughts. I paced my apartment, still wearing the graduation gown, like if I took it off too soon, the moment would disappear completely, like it never counted. I checked my bank account. The refund money sat there, untouched. The same money they'd already spent in their heads. I knew exactly what would happen if I sent it. There would be relief. Praise. Temporary peace. And then, next month, another crisis. I sat on the edge of my bed and let myself remember something I'd tried to forget. Last year, when my laptop broke 2 days before finals, I called my parents in a panic. I asked for help, just a little, just this once. My mother had laughed. "You'll figure it out," she said. "You're good at that." I borrowed a laptop. Stayed up for 48 hours straight. Passed my exams. Never brought it up again. The double standard burned now. My phone finally rang. I jumped despite myself. My father. I let it ring. Then again. And again. On the fourth call, a voicemail came through. "You're being selfish," his voice said, sharp and controlled. "We didn't raise you like this." I listened to it twice. Then a third time. Selfish. For not paying for a party I wasn't invited to. For wanting my graduation to matter. For choosing myself one time. A new message followed, this one from my mother. "You know how stressed your father gets. Why are you doing this to us?" I stared at the screen, my hands trembling, not with fear this time, but anger. Clean, focused anger. I typed. Then erased it. Typed again. Finally, I sent just one sentence. "I'm not sending money." 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Minutes passed. Finally, her reply came. "Wow. You've really changed." I set the phone down and laughed, soft, tired, but real. They were right. I had. I slept that night without checking my phone. No nightmares. No guilt-soaked dreams. Just deep, heavy rest, like my body had been waiting years for permission to let go. The next morning, sunlight spilled across my diploma on the table. I made coffee, slow and intentional, and sat down in front of it like it was an altar. I whispered, "I did this. Not we. Not because of them. Me." My phone buzzed again around noon. A text from my aunt. "Your parents are really upset. They say you abandoned them after everything they did for you." I smiled sadly. They were rewriting the story already. But this time, I knew the truth. And that knowledge felt dangerous. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And once you stop funding people's disrespect, they show you exactly who they are. Fire. If this part stirred something in you, hit like. Sometimes boundaries feel like betrayal, until you realize who benefited from you having none. By the end of the week, I had become a villain in a story I wasn't allowed to tell. The messages didn't come from my parents anymore. They came from relatives. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. An uncle who never remembered my birthday. Even my grandmother left a voicemail, her voice trembling with disappointment. "Family is all we have," she said. "Money comes and goes." I wondered if she'd said the same thing to my parents when they chose a party over my graduation. Probably not. I stopped answering my phone altogether. I needed space to hear my own thoughts without theirs echoing over them. I focused on practical things, updating my resume, applying for jobs, cleaning my apartment like I was shedding an old skin. That's when I found the notebook. It was wedged in the back of my closet, dusty, half forgotten. A budgeting notebook from my sophomore year. I sat on the floor and flipped through it. Page after page of numbers. Dates. Notes scribbled in the margins. Sent mom $200. Paid dad's phone bill. Emergency groceries. I added it up. The total made my stomach turn. They hadn't just taken money. They'd taken years. Time I could have saved. Opportunities one passed up. Security I never built. I realized then why they were so angry. It wasn't the money they wanted back. It was control. The doorbell rang. I froze. No one ever showed up unannounced. I looked through the peephole. My mother. Alone. Her arms were crossed, her mouth set in that familiar tight line, the one she used when she planned to win. My heart raced, but my feet moved anyway. I opened the door just enough to stand in the frame. "What do you want?" I asked. She forced a smile. "Can I come in?" "No." The word felt heavy and powerful all at once. Her smile vanished. "You're really doing this," she said. "After everything." "You missed my graduation," I replied. She waved her hand dismissively. "We already talked about that." "No," I said. "You talked around it." Her eyes hardened. "You're being ungrateful." I stepped back slightly, keeping the door between us. "I'm being done." For a moment, something like panic flashed across her face. Real panic. Because she knew. If I closed this door, it wasn't just physical. It was permanent. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "If you don't help us, don't expect us to help you in the future." I met her gaze, calm in a way that surprised even me. "You never did," I said. Silence stretched between us. She straightened, pride snapping back into place like armor. "Fine," she said. "Don't call us when you need something." I nodded. "I won't." She turned and walked away. I closed the door. Locked it. And slid down against it, my breath shaking, not from fear, but from release. For the first time. The story about me was finally mine to tell. Broken heart, if you've ever been painted as the bad guy for setting boundaries, leave a like. You're not wrong, you're just done being used. The days after my mother showed up felt strange. Too quiet. Too light. Like the calm after a storm when you're not sure if the clouds are really gone or just catching their breath. I kept expecting my phone to explode with messages, accusations, threats. But it didn't. Instead, something worse happened. Nothing. No calls. No texts. No guilt-laced check-ins disguised as concern. They vanished. And as much as I hated to admit it, that hurt too. I'd spent my whole life being needed. Being useful. Being the solution. Without that role, I felt unsteady, like I'd been fired from a job I never applied for. I threw myself into work. Interviews. Applications. Networking emails that started to blur together. I said yes to every opportunity, partly because I was ambitious, and partly because staying busy kept me from thinking about the silence. Then, one afternoon, I got the call. The job. A real one. Full-time. Benefits. A salary that made my chest tighten when I heard the number. I hung up and laughed out loud in my empty apartment. I wanted to tell someone. My hand reached for my phone before my brain caught up. Then I stopped. I sat there, staring at the screen, realizing something that felt both painful and empowering. They didn't get to hear this. Not after missing the hardest parts. Not after trying to tax my success. I called my best friend instead. She screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. She told me she was proud of me at least 5 times. I cried. Real, ugly tears. The kind that cleans something out of you. That night, I celebrated quietly. Takeout. A candle. My diploma propped up where I could see it. No audience. No obligations. Just me. Weeks passed. Then the messages started again. It began with a text from my father. Heard you got a job. Congratulations. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just an open door. My mother followed a day later. We could really use some help right now. Just saying. I felt the old reflex twitch inside me. The urge to smooth things over. To prove I was still good. Still generous. Still theirs. Instead, I opened my banking app. For the first time, my money felt like mine. I typed a response. Then deleted it. Then typed again. Finally, I sent. I'm not in a position to help. It was true. Not financially, but emotionally. Her reply came fast. So that's it. You're just going to forget who raised you. I stared at the message and felt something unexpected. Peace. Because I finally understood the cost of freedom. It wasn't money. It was being misunderstood by people who benefited from you staying small. And I was willing to pay that price. The message came at 2:17 a.m. I know the exact time because I stared at it for a full minute before opening it, my heart already bracing for impact. Call me. It's urgent. My mother. My chest tightened instantly. Old wiring sparked back to life. Emergencies were their favorite way back in. A single word was all it took to pull me out of sleep, out of peace. I sat up in bed, phone glowing in the dark. For a moment, I almost called. Then I remembered every urgent moment that wasn't. Rent shortfalls. Credit card bills. Car repairs that turned out to be cosmetic. Crisis after crisis that somehow always landed on my shoulders. I typed back. What's wrong? 3 dots appeared immediately. Then disappeared. Then a call came through. I let it ring. Again. And again. Finally, a voicemail. Her voice cracked just enough to sound real. Your father's car broke down, she said. We need money for repairs. We can't get to work. This is serious. I closed my eyes. There it was. Not an illness. Not danger. Not love. Logistics. I replayed the voicemail twice. Listened for panic. For fear. For anything that suggested this was about more than inconvenience. There was none. I sat there, breathing slowly, grounding myself in the present, the steady hum of the fridge, the weight of my blankets, the quiet safety of my apartment. This wasn't my emergency. I typed carefully. I'm sorry that's happening. I can't help financially. Seconds passed. Then her reply exploded onto my screen. Unbelievable. After everything we've done for you. You really are heartless. My hands shook, not because she was right, but because I was finally seeing the manipulation clearly. When kindness didn't work, they tried shame. When shame didn't work, they tried fear. I didn't respond. A new message came in, this one from my father. We're family. You don't turn your back on family. I whispered the words out loud. You don't turn your back on family. I had spent my whole life facing them. I locked my phone and set it face down on the nightstand. For the first time, I let them sit in their own discomfort. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No missed calls. No follow-ups. No apology. Later that day, my aunt texted. Your parents figured it out. A neighbor helped them. I smiled faintly. They always did. They just preferred when I paid the price. That night, as I washed dishes, I realized something that made my chest ache in a new way. They didn't need me. They needed access. And I had finally closed the door. Time did something unexpected. It softened. Weeks turned into months, and the sharp edges of anger dulled into something quieter, heavier. Not forgiveness. Just distance. The kind that lets you breathe without flinching every time your phone lights up. I settled into my job. Learned routines. Learned my worth. My coworkers celebrated small wins, projects finished, birthdays remembered, effort noticed. No one asked me to earn my place by sacrificing myself. That was new. One afternoon, I caught my reflection in the office bathroom mirror. Hair pulled back. Posture straighter. Eyes steadier. I looked, grown. Not just older. Evolved. My parents hadn't seen this version of me. They still spoke to me like I was the girl who needed approval. The one who'd fold under pressure. But that girl was gone. The call came on a random Tuesday. My father. I almost didn't answer. Almost. "Hey," he said, his voice careful. "We haven't talked in a while." "No," I agreed. There was a pause. I could hear him choosing words like stepping stones. "We've been thinking," he said. "Maybe things got misunderstood." I leaned back in my chair, eyes on the window, the city moving outside without me. "You skipped my graduation," I said calmly. Silence. Then, that again. Something in me closed permanently. "Yes," I replied. "That again." He exhaled sharply. "You're holding on to resentment." "I'm holding on to reality," I corrected. He changed tactics. "We're willing to move past everything," he said. "Start fresh." I almost laughed. Move past without accountability. Start fresh without repair. "I'm not interested in pretending," I said. His voice hardened. "So you're punishing us?" I thought about all the times I'd been punished for needing too much, for asking for help, for wanting to be seen. "No," I said. "I'm protecting myself." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, surprised by how little it hurt. That night, I went home and cooked a real meal. I played music. I danced in my kitchen, barefoot, laughing at nothing. Joy, I realized, was the thing they never taught me. Only obligation. And as I moved through my apartment, light and unburdened, I understood something that felt like a quiet victory. They didn't lose me. They never truly had me to begin with. Seedling, if you're becoming someone your past can't control anymore, hit like. Growth looks like distance to people who benefited from your silence. I didn't expect to see my mother again. That's the truth. When you build a wall slowly, brick by brick, you start to believe it will stand forever. I thought the distance was permanent, quiet, clean, controlled. Until one Sunday afternoon, there was a knock at my door. Not a sharp knock. A hesitant one. I froze in the kitchen, dish towel in my hand, heart instantly alert. My apartment had become my sanctuary. No one crossed into it without my consent. I approached the door carefully and looked through the peephole. My mother. She looked smaller. Not weak, just diminished. Her shoulders were slumped. Her hair wasn't done the way she usually wore it when she wanted to appear composed. No makeup. No armor. I opened the door, but didn't step aside. "What do you want?" I asked. She swallowed. "Can we talk?" I considered it. Then I nodded, once, and stepped back enough to let her in. She stood awkwardly in the middle of the living room, eyes landing on my diploma on the shelf. On the framed photo of me and my best friend at my new job's welcome event. A life she hadn't been invited into. "I should have been there," she said suddenly. I didn't respond. "At your graduation," she added, her voice tight. "I know that now." Still, I waited. She turned to face me. Her eyes were glossy, but steady. "I'm sorry," she said. The words hung in the air. I searched her face, not for emotion, but for truth. Why now? I asked. She hesitated. Your aunt showed me pictures. Everyone else's parents were there. I didn't realize how big it was. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not remorse. Embarrassment. You realized when other people saw, I said. She flinched. I didn't mean it like that. But that's what it is, I replied gently. You didn't miss me. You missed how it made you look. Tears spilled then. Real ones, I think. We were under so much stress, she said. The money, the bills, we leaned on you too much. There it was. The almost apology. I needed parents, I said quietly. Not dependents. She nodded, crying openly now. I don't expect you to fix anything, she said. I just didn't want to lose you. I looked at her, really looked. For the first time, I wasn't the child in the room. I'm not lost, I said. I just stepped away. She left an hour later. No hugs. No promises. Just a quiet understanding that some apologies don't rewind time. That night, I sat alone on my couch, staring at the wall, feeling something complicated settle inside me. Closure. Not the kind that fixes everything. The kind that lets you stop hoping. The night after my mother left, I took my diploma down from the shelf and held it in my hands like it was fragile. Not because it could break. But because I had almost broken earning it. I thought about that gym again, the empty seats, the echo of my name, the applause that didn't belong to them. For so long, I'd framed that day as a loss. But loss depends on perspective. I hadn't lost my parents that day. I lost the illusion that they would ever show up for me without a price attached. And that truth, painful as it was, set me free. Months later, I attended a coworker's graduation party. Her parents gave a speech, their voices shaking with pride. I felt a familiar ache rise up, and then fade. Because I knew something they didn't. Love that has to be earned isn't love. Support that comes with invoices isn't support. When my parents called after that, it was different. Less often. Less demanding. Sometimes awkward. Sometimes quiet. I kept my boundaries firm and my expectations realistic. I stopped waiting for them to become who I needed. And in that space, something unexpected grew. Peace. I framed my diploma and hung it by the door. Not for guests. For me. A reminder that I crossed that stage alone, but I walked into my life whole. Strong. Unowned. And if you're listening to this right now, standing at the edge of your own hard choice, wondering if choosing yourself makes you selfish. Let me tell you something I learned the hard way. You don't owe people access to you just because they raised you. You don't owe people money for love they withheld. And you don't have to stay small to keep others comfortable. I graduated that day. Not just from college. But from guilt. Red Heart, if this story meant something to you, please like, subscribe, and share where you're listening from in the comments. Your support helps stories like this reach the people who need them.